gotta look at the law or something. Yeah, but that's like their policy, and see if it's when and that's.
And if you have further questions about consent and, the types of consent, that sort of thing, it looks to me in the outline that it's fairly well addressed on page 7 and page 8. And then those little mini snapshots, it looks to me like they pretty much deal with that. There's one more area of warrant interest, I guess, that I want to touch on, and we'll move on to other stuff. And that's the issue of hospital holds. I don't know if any of you ever heard of hospital holds. Okay. So what happens with a child when you take them to the hospital, and this is by way of brief background, happens with a child, usually infants or younger children. You take them to the hospital, there's some issue. Somebody at the hospital, perhaps the hospital social worker, the public health nurse, or maybe the pediatrician or doctor, expresses some concern that there may be some abuse or something in the home, or that the injuries suffered by the child just don't look accidental. They may call a social worker, county social worker, and the county social worker will instruct them to put a hospital hold on the child. What that means is do not let the parent leave with the child until we're able to do a full investigation, get a court order, or whatever. Hospital holds, for purposes of your analysis here and your cause of action, hospital holds are going to be treated as a warrantless removal. So remember, any time that the government restricts your ability to do something with your child without getting a court order or a warrant, you're going to do the analysis on it under as a parent, under the 14th Amendment warrant requirements. If you have a child and represented, they'll also do the same analysis, but it will be under the 4th Amendment. And just so that you're clear, when depending on what position we're in, whether we're a parent or a child, and we're looking at a warrant claim, or a claim based on a warrant or lack of warrant, where the analysis is going to be the same. The case you're going to want to look at for that is Wallace versus Spencer, and essentially what the Ninth Circuit, again, tells us there is that in that type of situation, where we're a parent and the child was removed based on a fraudulent warrant or without a warrant, we're going to do the same analysis to determine the parent's rights as we would if we were standing in the shoes of the child. All right? So in other instances, outside the context of the warrant requirements, the parent's 14th Amendment analysis may be different, but when we're looking at a warrantless removal or fraudulent warrant, we're going to look at it from the perspective of the child, even though we're pursuing it under the 14th Amendment as the parent. Does that make sense?
So it's actually a 4th Amendment violation of the child.
Yeah, it's going to be a 4th Amendment violation of the child, but remember, as the parent, we don't have that right. And so under Wallace versus Spencer, what the court has said is, we're not going under the 4th Amendment to the parent. So how do we look at it? What we're going to do is we're going to say, look, it's going to be the same analysis. It's just under the 14th Amendment instead of the 4th. Because you have to remember, if we're looking at parents' rights in a different context, under the 14th Amendment, the standard is going to be deliberate indifference. We actually have to go out, have evidence to prove that either the misconduct was intentional, malicious, or that the social worker was deliberately indifferent to my rights as a parent. That's a tough standard. To get the kind of evidence to prove that in front of a jury, that's tough. Under the 4th Amendment analysis, all we're looking at is whether or not the conduct was unwarranted. That's a lot easier standard to meet. Was it unwarranted? Did they lie to get the warrant? Well, we know from earlier in our discussion today that a fraudulently obtained warrant is treated the same as no warrant. No warrant, by definition, is unwarranted. That sounds like a lot easier standard to meet than deliberate indifference, intent to harm. So if you are in a situation where your child was removed without a warrant, absolutely pursue that. It's a lot easier burden than the deliberate indifference standard, and it's a better way to go. I don't know better, that's probably not the right word, it's easier way to go. I'm not really going to talk much about entry into the home, search and seizure stuff. Frankly, we don't do a lot of warrantless search. We don't, in the home anyway. When they examine a child, that sort of thing, the same analysis applies.
Would they require a warrant?
Later.
I don't know about that. We'll deal with that later.